Hello, this is Shor Denny of Community Now. I'm Glenn W. Hunter of Hunter and Beyond LLC, and this is the 3 Cs of SEL, Social Emotional Learning, the quarantine series. Boy, the thing we want to talk about today is culture clash. In this current environment, it's no one's secret that there's quarantines in place literally coast to coast. And as we look at what's going on, particularly in the Inland Empire, where Shore is able to bring a lot of social emotional learning skills and understanding to our communities, we're dealing with a lot of the fallback of this quarantine. We're all together and kind of cramped up. So one of the things that really kind of sounds the gong that we have some issues here is that everyone seems to have a different idea on discipline. So tell us what that looks like.
Wow, the discipline aspect in the home right now has got to be like amazing, right? If you think of how many generations should we put together? Let's just have some fun and think that we have maybe Big Mama's there, right? Big Mama, then we've got Grandma, we've got Mom, and then we've got the kids. So if you put 4 generations together, let's see, Big Mama's like, boy, go get the stick, because they're not going to tolerate anything. They're upset that they had to tell you twice, right? Didn't I tell you the first time, right? So we have to come from that to the next generation that's looking at that generation going, well, Mom, maybe you should have gave them, 5 minutes, maybe you should give them some more time, So those 2 generations are kind of going at it, and then you got the 3rd generation coming in with, well, dang, I don't understand why we have to do it at all. You know what I mean? So, you start seeing the clash and the dynamics of each generation going down to the kid that's like, well, looking at them all like, well, what do I do? Because I don't want Big Mama's alternative, right? Because certainly I'm not going to go out and find my own switch. But then, are we going to deal with the millennial parent that's like, go to your room and just watch your computer? I mean, where is the discipline and who is going to have the power, I guess is really what it comes to in that family. And how are they going to bring all of those different cultures of discipline together during this exciting time of quarantine?
I think one of the things that comes out in what you've just described, which is happening in many, many households, everyone's right. Everyone's right. And how do we get there? I mean, literally, Short, how do we get there?
Because everyone's dancing to a different beat. Everyone's getting different information, and everyone thinks that their information is the information. In a time where, we built this pathway for our youth and for this society. We brought this computer age in, but yet now that it's here, we're all looking at it like, whoa, what do we do with it? So we have our information and we're looking at it. One generation is looking at the news, right? They're watching. I'm a Rachel Maddow fan, so every day at 6 o'clock I'm sitting there watching Rachel Maddow, trying to find out what is the next thing that's what's happening and what's going on. But then you've got Grandma or someone, a little older Big Mama who may actually still be a subscriber to the LA Times, and they're getting their information there, or they have a real old pastor at a church that's, been reliable in their information, and they believe that pastor, and that's where they get their information. Our youth are looking at different websites and apps that they're getting like immediate. It's changing. Like 5 seconds ago, there was a newscast by the president, and they're on it. They're like, well, did you know that, he just spoke 5 minutes ago? Well, Big Mama is not ready, right? She's like, wait, the pastor didn't say that, or it didn't come up in the news yet, so we, and then that youth thinks that they have the right answer. My media outlet is the right one. So everyone thinks that what they're hearing is the answer, and that, no one else is right.
You talk about all these different channels, and the image I get is, again, the adult yelling across the house somewhere trying to get someone's attention. And the only thing they can think of is, what? Why are you mad? I'm on the phone.
Right, right.
You know, but when you start boiling it down, you know, using language that you've brought to our attention, you got tech babies and you got tech haters. You
Yeah,
know, and you know, the tech babies literally have technology in the crib. And to your point, the tech haters are waiting on the pastor to bring the news or see what the newspaper has that morning once they finally get out to the driveway to get it.
right, right.
How do these two polar opposites coexist in a quarantine environment, Shor?
That's gonna we have to be open to, like, number one, there are more outlets than the one that we're looking at in this day of information. There's a lot of information. So I would say that, you know, we need to kind of collaborate. You know, let's find out what everybody knows, you know, and draw our conclusions from um, everybody putting their information in the pot. So I would say um, my information is adequate. My information where I get it is correct. However, that doesn't mean it's all the information that's out there. There's more information and more that can be put into the mix for us to, you know, decide how we're going to deal with and stay in the quarantine.
Okay. And so you're getting different pieces of information coming through different channels, coming through different generations,
Right.
but we're still trying to find the truth. So, as you're saying that this is a great approach, what happens in real life today? Because they're not agreeing.
That's where, you know, the even up to those in probably their 40s, their 30s, you know, they're even up to that, those age groups, they're still looking at a different world than those under 40. Let's just say those under 40, right? They're in a very electronic world, very technical world. They were born with electronic devices. My daughter is 19, and when she was 2, we had her at the computer. When she was 6, she had a phone. You know, I mean, so she was birthed with technology. And for someone to say, well, why are you on that technology? It's kind of it's kind of entertaining, right, to have that conversation. One person's all upset that they're using the technology that we, the generations before, worked so hard to put here for them to use, right? But then I guess when we were building these things, we didn't actually think of how they were going to use the technology. So we gave them phones with cameras. We gave them little mini computers with cameras that we didn't realize that they were going to spend 80% of the time taking pictures of themselves. Right? We thought they were going to use it to do some big amazing things, but they ended up using it for something, you know, we weren't really prepared for. And then we want to kind of be disgusted that look at what they're doing, you know, with that technology. So when you see your 5th grader who you bought a phone for over there playing on that phone, I just think it's really odd that you're upset about it, you know, that they're using the technology that generations have put here for them, and that we're not seeing the value of their using the equipment that we gave them, because they are actually, if you look at it, they can be more updated than we are. They can have a better grasp of what's going on because they are literally getting information pushed at them and pushed to them constantly, constantly. I have an app, it's called Newsstand on my phone. And anytime anything happens, it lets me know, you know, there's a little notification, you know, this happened in China. This happened with the politics. This happened here. So we can be very on top of what's happening. So in this generational thing and the conflict that goes on with technology, I would have to say that, again, we need to communicate. And I think the older generations need to look at what we gave our youth and start trying to see the value from their side. I mean, we can't blame them for what we gave them. We can't blame them for using what we gave them and what we gave them in the cradle. Like you're saying, you know, they were playing with little things. We've been giving kids little things to occupy their time, to keep them away from, you know, things or to give us time since they were babies. And then now we want to be upset about it. During the quarantine, we should be seeing what can we use together? What kind of media can we use together to gather information and to have fun? Sit down and play Wii with your kids. Get on the PS4. You know, there's a game called Overcooked. I'm horrible at it. Play Overcooked with your kids, you know. Try to bring the media and the technology into everyone's life so that it's not so foreign and they don't feel so odd. And I almost feel rightfully indignant for getting mad at us for them using the stuff we gave them.
Mm. So I like the idea of finding common ground in terms of, you know, the technology, making games and things like that. But to get to the core of what we're talking about, what we like to talk about is the social emotional learning. Can you give some insight on the different perspectives of how SEL is expressed across generations? What does it look like for the kids when they are saying, well, gee, I'm having some angst, I'm having some issues that can be equated to some of my social emotional learning structure? And then also the distinction between that and some of the adults who are still wrestling with it from their perspective. What would help bridge that particular gap?
Empathy. Understanding. I did the definition of empathy, and it's to understand and share the feelings of another. That's what we need to do in this time of quarantine in our homes with our families. We need to empathize and see things, try to see things from the other person's point of view. Try to be in their shoes as they're expressing it. Don't be defensive. Don't always feel that people are attacking. Be open and ready for a conversation and communicating. And communication sometimes isn't comfortable. Sometimes it isn't sweet, and sometimes it's not all shiny, right? Sometimes when people are being truthful, sometimes it stings a little. Sometimes we need to do self-reflection, not just projection onto others. Sometimes it might be us. so you know, it's a point of trying to see things from the other person's point of view. And I think that makes living in a quarantine situation easier. It makes it more manageable. It makes it less defensive and brings takes out a lot of negativity within the relations of you know, each family member. So communicating and you know, empathizing.
Man, I don't think we can overemphasize the importance of empathy, especially in terms of communication across generations. You know, I wanted to add one to that, though. I think it's important that in this communication, expectations are set up front so that we're able to at least minimize some of that tension. What are your thoughts on that perspective?
I think that definitely. And if you haven't set expectations yet, do it now. It's never too late. And you can always adapt your expectations as you see that they actually are not realistic to the environment. So have expectations, write them down, post them somewhere so that people can remember what is expected of them. That's an easy one. So instead of having to say it 15 times, they can go to the board and look at it. That relieves tension on both parts. It relieves the tension of the child of, oh God, I've got to remember it, or if they're going to yell at me if I ask. And it relieves the tension of the parent of, if I have to say that one more time, you know. So doing things like that, trying to find better ways of communicating those expectations, then playing them through and seeing, did it work, right? Just because we are, as parents, are in charge doesn't mean that we're always right and that things can't be altered or changed or adapted. So I think it's very important that our kids know we are adaptable, and that helps them be adaptable. So I in my household am not perfect. My family knows I am not perfect, and they are not perfect, but we are able to live in perfectism, is that the word, imperfectly together, right? So I'm not, I'm not defensive of, oh, I made a mistake or I did something wrong, because I'm human and I make mistakes and I do things wrong just as they do. So along with that, it's not beating someone up verbally or mentally because they are wrong or because they adapted, but understanding that we're trying to live together. We're trying to coexist in a positive way, in harmony, really, during this quarantine. And how can we accomplish that? And to me, it's being real. It's not being defensive and covering and, oh, I don't want to be hurt and I don't. It's allowing that experience to happen, because sometimes with families, that hurt opens up more love. It opens up more channels of communication. So again, it would be making sure your expectation is known and being adaptable to manage those expectations, and being very, very open in your communication. And third, or fourth, lastly, breathe. I consistently and constantly say it because I consistently and constantly have to do it. When I become a little frustrated, when I become overwhelmed at moments, I stop and breathe. Deep breath. Take a deep breath, hold it for a few seconds, and then blow it out. And when you're blowing it out, think of that negative thought. Blow that negative thought out. Blow it out of your body. Breathe in positivity. Breathe in peace. Breathe in hope. Breathe in, and then blow out any negativity. Blow it out. Blow it hard. Blow out. So the more oxygen you blow out, or carbon dioxide that you blow out of your body, the more oxygen you're going to breathe in. The easier it's going to be for you to think. The oxygen goes to your brain. It helps with calming your nerves, helping you with concentration. Breathe a lot.
Outstanding. Sure, I think we covered a lot of ground today, especially, as we started focusing on how many different ways culture clash occurs, particularly in a quarantine environment. I think you gave some awesome tools to be put into play and to keep families together, as opposed to creating their own family feuds. At this point, I think you got it all done. So on behalf of Shor Denny, our subject matter expert of Community Now, I'm Glenn W. Hunter, asking you all again, in this environment, be safe.
Stay well, you guys. Remember to like us, subscribe, and pass us along, share us to others and anyone that you think wants or needs to hear what we're talking about. And please just stay safe. Keep your mind in a positive place as much as you can, and be well.